Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is POV, and this is week 4 of Jojo's Bizarre Adventure, Part 4. Diamond is Unbreakable. Uh, this is the only show where you'll see a teenager fight for his life against a group of toy army men. Pretty well done episode overall. There's not much that I can say. This video will probably be short, so let me just get on with it and let's get right into the overview. So, the episode starts off where last episode ended, and that is the Nijimura brother Keisho getting a hold of Koichi and telling Josuke that he needs his body because he needs to retrieve the arrow. And so our episode starts. Keisho has the body. Josuke is right in front of him, telling him like, "Hey, like, don't move him. Like, what are you gonna do with him?" And Keisho informs him he needs the arrow, so he's gonna take it off. Josuke doesn't want any of this. He says he'll bleed even harder if he takes the arrow off. Um, Keisho does it anyway. Then by this time, Okuyasu, who last episode was so to say like unconscious, wakes up and he tells his brother like, "Hey, I'm not done with this guy yet. Like, I can still fight." And as he's coming towards Yosuke, and as Yosuke like is walking towards Keisho, the guy with the arrow, um, Josuke notices lighting from like up above, and so of his obvious assumption after the events that everything's been going on, like this guy has a stand, so he decides to move out the way. And then he sees Okuyasu, the younger brother, get shot up in the face. Well, he sees bullet holes at least, so like it must be like something that's shooting, and the stand that shoots the enemy. Okuyasu has a bunch of spots on his face, like he's bleeding hard. Josuke does not understand what's going on, and the brother, you can tell he's merciless. He's like, "Yo, like brother, you're a dumbass. Like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to dispose of you as well." Um, and as he's shooting, as the his stance that we don't get to see, is shooting Josuke, he also aims for his brother at some point. He aims for Okuyasu, so like that's kind of fucked up. And Josuke, being the good guy that he is, like he breaks a wall behind him. He takes the brother with him in the process, also getting injured himself, and closes the wall so that they have like a defense in between them. By this time, Keisho continues with his plan, and he takes the body of Koichi to an upper level because he doesn't want anyone else to see it, to see that something fishy is going on. Josuke, being worried because he doesn't know what this stand is, he decides to interrogate Okuyasu, tell him like, "Tell me what his stand is. What does it do?" And Okuyasu, of course, he's not gonna rat out his brother. And we get a little shot where it looks like Josie's going to like karate chop Okuyasu, but he instead decides to heal him, which is where Okuyasu's change of heart starts. He first asks him like, "Why are you doing this? Like, I'm your enemy. I shouldn't be doing this." Um, and Josuke gives a simple answer, like the simple answer that he just had no purpose in dying. There's no reason for him to die in that spot. And Okuyasu like it starts hitting him. And this is like the funny part of like the episode in my opinion, where like Yosuke's walking up like being really stealthy, and then all of a sudden Okuyasu's like, "Hey, I have another question." So like it just further introduces Okuyasu's character to us, which is a good thing. Um, and you can already tell like he's having this change of heart. He's gonna become a good guy, um, and we are led to this situation where Josuke enters the like this hallway and sees this room where Koichi's body is just laying on the floor, but it has no one or nothing around it, so it could obviously be a trap. Josuke doesn't care; he just wants to get in there and save his friend, and Okuyasu then comes out of nowhere and he's like with like the hand, like he's about to attack him, but no, of course, as I mentioned, the change of heart that he goes through, he decides to just use his ability to shorten space between two people and just bring Koichi towards Josuke. And he tells him like, listen, like, you saved me. This is how I'm gonna help you. Like, I'm not helping anyone else, not my brother, not you anymore. Like, we're even. And that's interesting, him saying that. It just shows that little, like, because Josuke could have gotten fucked up, but like, if you, after he, like, now that we know, like, obviously you've watched this episode, I'm assuming, so obviously, we know what Keisho's stand is. He could have gotten fucked up if he was not careful. um, but we are then introduced to the scene where Josuke heals Koichi completely. He just makes sure that he's completely conscious, like, how many fingers am I holding? Um, and then Keisho starts introducing his stand more and more. Like, little by little, we get like we see this little guy like floating around the wall, and then Josie's like, "Yo, like, I'll hit him." And as he's about to attack him, like, he notices that there are a ton more, and we are introduced to bad company. I mean, worse company. Or guys, if you are anime only viewer, the actual name of the stand is Bad Company. You even hear Keisho say it himself in a little bit with a Japanese accent, like Bato Company. Um, the name is Bad Company. Worst Company, the subtitling, just like Shiny Diamonds, not the most accurate. Like, that's the 0.5% of the episode that I probably didn't like. Um, but hey, copyrights. I guess we're gonna have to deal with it this whole fucking part 4. But what is Bad Company? I'm gonna say Bad Company because fuck Worst Company. Bad Company is just a group of little army men, and this is an interesting thing because Josuke defeats 2, and it is later stated as well, like, oh, like, from Keisha himself, like, my formation is completely messed up now because it bugs me that the formation is not as clean because you disposed of 2 of them, which is a really interesting idea, and it means he could serve like little body shields in a way for him, because think about it. There's a point where Josuke sends Crazy Diamond to just like grab nails from the wall and like tosses them towards Keisho, but like the army men, they shoot like the little nails and they dispose of it right before it hits them. Keisho also mentions that this is like the ultimate defense for him, which is interesting because if any of you are familiar with Naruto, then it reminds me a lot of like Gaara's ultimate defense, like this defense force, this field that protects him, consciously or unconsciously, and it's a little bit different than having a humanoid stand that like defends you physically. These are like just think of if you guys play games, think about a tower defense game where you just set these little defense forces around you, and like you just make sure that they automatically hit anything that's coming towards you. Um, so then, Bad Company introduced. We know about it. There's a point where Koichi starts noticing the stance. He's like, "Yo, like, watch out!" Like, Josuke, and that's where it hits Josuke as well. Like, wait, you can see these things, so that means the obvious assumption from the logic and the rules that we've gotten about stance is that only people with a stand can see and understand. So yeah, Koichi has a stand, and Keisho, seeing that Koichi has survived the arrow, wants to know what his stand is, and that's a little mystery that we are introduced to in this episode. Like, why does Keisho want to know? Why is it so important that he has a useful stand from like get that? Why is he making people with stands in the first place? And that's the little mystery that we get introduced to, which is I find absolutely the reasoning behind it. I'm just telling you, like, I personally loved it, um, and so he's trying to force Koichi to build up the stand. Koichi doesn't know how to do it, and so Keisho decides to put him in like a life-threatening situation where he sends one of his army men. Like it's really cool. Like he has like this platoon of just like all kinds, like the attacking type, the stealth type. Like he has tanks, helicopters. Like this is a pretty cool concept for a stand. So he sends one of these guys to cut Koichi on the neck. Koishi's stance awakens out of subconscious defense, um, and we see that it's just an egg. And a couple of seconds later, the egg starts to crack, and that's where Keisho like gets a little bit worried, um, and for a justifiable reason, because he then states like, I can't have those two together. If that stand pops up, then it's two against one. So I gotta keep an eye on one at least. Um, and therefore he sends his whole squadron to like attack the egg right away, because if you attack a stand, it affects the user. Um, and so Josuke decides to kick the egg out of the area so that Koichi also flies off, and that's where the Bad Company versus Crazy Diamond fight starts. It's much more worth watching the actual fight than me having to explain it. I'll just go into the conclusion, which is the the helicopters that Keisho has under his control shoot missiles towards Josuke. Josuke breaks them off, of course, with Crazy Diamond's punches. And at one point later in the fight, Josuke gets trapped, cornered by all these army men. And Keisho getting cocky, is like, "What, are you giving up all of a sudden?" Josuke just Crazy Diamond to rebuild those missiles that were destroyed from Crazy Diamond's fist, and they end up back in the exact same place that they were. However, by that time, Keisho already moved closer, so the missiles were right, like aiming towards him, and hit him straight in the face. Really well thought, like strategic wise, battle wise. I absolutely love the conclusion, and that's kind of where the episode ends. Now, the 3 points that I like to talk about: animation, pacing, and value to the overall plot. Animation, absolutely no issues with the animation this episode. The episode was simple. It was just a battle between between Josuke and Keisho. Absolutely well done. I like the fact that this episode is a rather dark episode, and by that I don't mean theme wise. I mean more color wise. It's a dark episode, and the fact that they're giving stands and the stands users now like this aura that flows around them, like a colorful aura, really helps out in the color palette of the overall episode. I absolutely love it. I wasn't too crazy about it at first, because it was mostly something before part three Stardust Crusaders. It was something that was given towards the end of the series when Jotaro was fighting Dio, um, and now they're implying it like applying it everywhere. Like it seems to all the stand users at least. I don't mind it. It's a little bit of a change of pace, and it looks good. It suited this episode perfectly in the dark environment to highlight, and especially with all the little army men, to like make them visible, helped out a lot. And it pays a lot of respect to the actual manga. It has a lot of moments where that were directly drawn. It looks animated from the manga itself. A little detail at first when Josuke is still finding out what Bad Company is, and he jumps away. There's like this flower vase next to him that gets shot up and broken into pieces. I looked back at the manga. It looks like that exactly. So huge props. The pacing, well, I guess again, well paced, I would say. We didn't get too much information about the whole situation. This was mostly a battle episode, so it was mostly focused on the battle itself. And I feel that most short fights like these should be concluded in one episode most of the time. So, one episode, one fight. perfect. That's how it should be done. You don't want the battle to get dragged on too much or end up in a cliffhanger. That's what I don't like a lot, and that's what happened in part 3 a couple of times, where you had battles that would, like, oh my god, what's gonna happen next episode, and then it concludes within the next 5 to 10 minutes, and of the next episode. Like, no, if you can conclude it at one episode, then do it. Um, Now, the value to the overall plot, as I mentioned, it was mostly a battle episode, so there's not much I can bring up. There's not much information that we get. I guess the one major development that we get is just that Koichi now has a stand that's an egg that is cracking, and that we will hopefully sometime later see what comes out of it. What will his stand be? That's the other question. And I guess we also get the question, like, why does Keisho want to find a certain stand, and what kind of stand is he looking for? Um, Being someone who has read the manga, I'll just say that I'm pretty, the way the episodes are going, I believe that next week we will get our conclusion of the Nishimura brothers arc. And, like, this is one of my personal favorite parts of this whole part 4. So I'm curious to see how it's going to be animated. If if by any means they hold out sometimes a little bit of animation to make certain scenes better, I'll accept that. Last episode there were a couple of nitpicks that I had regarding animation, and this week it seems like they just went full out, and like the entire episode was masterfully animated. I absolutely loved it. This video will not include any extra notes because there's not much else that I need to talk about other than Bad Company being called Worst Company. And reviewing the manga has convinced me that it paid well homage, and that there's not much else that I need to go into. And yeah, so overall, great episode. Can't wait for next week. Conclusion, hopefully. If you liked my video, please hit that like button. Comment down below what you thought about this episode. If there were any things that you did not like about it, what do you think of Bad Company, aka Worst Company? Hit the subscribe button, share with anyone who's interested, and have a great day. Thank you. Bye.